Hey, and welcome everybody to today's Ministry Builders webinar, AI in Ministry, Friend or Foe? We're going to be talking about how and when we should be applying AI in our ministries, talking about some specific tools that you can use if you elect to. My name is Logan Lyles. I'm Director of Growth here at Business Builders, where we know that for churches and ministries, trying to reach people online can be confusing and expensive. We want to give you tools to make it clear and effective. Leveraging AI for content creation is one of those ways. I'm going to have Jay introduce himself. Jay Owen will be the main presenter on today's session. If you joined us a couple weeks ago, you know this has been an ongoing series. And if you're not able to stay the whole time, this will be recorded. Plus, you'll get a copy of the deck. But I want to encourage you to stay on towards the end. We're going to have some live Q&A with Jay, and Jay's also going to share a link to a tool list that will be helpful for you to be able to grab some of the tools and start playing with some of the technology that he's going to talk about in today's session. With that, Jay, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself to our new folks and maybe some returning webinar guests. If you were with us last time, let us know in the chat. All right, over to you, Jay.
Thanks, Logan. It's good to be here. Good to be back. For those of you that were with us last time, thanks for returning. For those of you that are new, we're glad you're here. If you missed the last one, we could probably get you a recording of that as well. And then we have another webinar coming up next week where we're going to talk about how to grow your email and texting list. Incredibly important. But today, as Logan said, we're going to focus on the topic of AI. There's nothing been hotter or more talked about over the last really 2 years now, which is pretty crazy, than this particular topic. And so what I want to do is have a little fun to begin with to kind of get us into it. Then I'm going to talk about AI kind of at a big global level to think about it as it relates to the world and our lives and our ministries. And then kind of dig in a little bit more and talk about tactically, how do we actually use it? What tools can be used on a day-to-day basis? I'll show you specific examples of things that I've done or teams I get to lead have done that I think will be helpful for you, regardless of where you're at in your journey and regardless of what size your church or ministry is. These things will work for everybody. If we've not met before, my name is Jay. I get to wear a lot of different hats. I am the Executive Director of Digital Discipleship at the Church of 1122 in Jacksonville, Florida. And I'm the founder here at Business Builders and Ministry Builders, where we've been in business for over 25 years, helping businesses, ministries, and nonprofits get attention online and achieve their goals. So let's jump right into the deck today. As we go, if you have questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. I will do my best to pay a little bit of attention to them, but Logan will be in there answering questions and helping direct folks to more information. I will be talking about some tools along the way that I'm not going to link to in the deck, but I'm going to send you to a resource that you can download that'll give you all of those tools and links to them as well. And also on that list, if you're the kind of person who's into this kind of stuff and wants some ongoing strategy, I'm going to be sending out some kind of monthly updates for people that are into AI starting soon that will kind of give you the lay of the land, because nothing's changing faster than this. All right, let's dig into it. So the first thing is going to require a little interaction. So click that chat button in Zoom. You can have a little chat window open up. You want to make sure it's set to send to everybody. And we're going to have a little game. It's going to be called AI. Is it real or not? You decide. I'm going to show you two images, an A image on the left and a B image on the right. And I want you to decide which one is real. One of them is a real photograph, and the other one is AI generated. So really quickly, first image, here we go, A or B. So open that chat window and type in which one you think is real. Which one is real, A or B? Okay, Emily said B, David said B, Travis said B. Somebody said A. It's moving so fast I can't even see. Tim said
B's
neither.
the winner, I think. Yeah.
Frank said A. The actual image, those of you that said B are correct. That is the real image. All right, let's try, let's switch to cars, okay? Here are two Porsches, I should say, for those of you that are really into it, but I've always called it Porsche, whatever. Which one is real, A or B? One of these is real, one of them is not. A or B? A lot of B's, a couple of A's, a lot of B's. Those of you that said B are incorrect. The correct answer is A. That photo came directly off of the Porsche website, believe it or not. The other one is totally AI generated. All I said to create the image on the right was show me a picture of a Porsche in a showroom. That's all. That was it. And that was on Midjourney that created that image, if you're curious. All right, let's get a little bit crazier and look at some pictures of people. Which one is real? Believe it or not, one of these is real and one of them is fake. A or B, which one is real? Okay, a lot of people said A, couple of B's, back and forth. The correct answer is A. Believe it or not. One more. People again, because people are harder than inanimate objects in general. Which one of these is real? One of them is real, one of them is not. David said B, Ryan said A, Nathaniel said A, Jeremy said A, Carl said A, David said B, and the correct answer is A. So my point of this exercise is we don't really know. Now, maybe a couple of y'all got them all right. If you did, congratulations. You are the top of the AI discernment class. But the other thing I'll say is that quite a few of these images I created months ago, and this technology is advancing at such an incredible pace that literally 2 years ago, when we first started seeing images created by AI, they were almost you almost couldn't even tell what they were. You kind of had an idea and it was like, oh, it's kind of cool that it like made something that kind of looks like what I said. But now they're creating images that are almost indistinguishable from reality. Here's what I would say as the whole to help us put our mindset in the right place as we think about AI. There have been 3 times in my life where I thought this changes everything about everything. Now, the first time, while I was sitting right here, yes, that is actually me. I don't know if any of y'all remember this sound. So anybody over 40 remembers dialing into the internet like this? Yes, that is actually a picture of me. Eventually we'll be dialed into the internet here. We get the idea. It took a long time to get on the internet back then, you know? So some of y'all remember that. It was a very fun time to be alive. I think in this photo, I was probably about 13 years old. And I remember logging into a bulletin board system not too long before this and reading an article. First of all, I probably shouldn't have been logging into bulletin board systems that age, but my parents didn't know what was going on. Which leads me to wonder what my kids are into that I don't know, because I got 5 teenagers, but you know, I'm doing my best. And my wife looked at this photo the first time and she's like, did you just come out of the hospital or something? Looks like you got a hospital gown on. And no, I don't. That's just how fashionable I was at the time, really dialed into my nerddom. And I remember reading this article saying, coming soon, the World Wide Web. And I thought, this changes everything about everything. Now, people will often, when I give this talk, go, did you really think that at that age? And I'm like, yeah, I did. I thought like a 40-year-old since I was 12. Now I'm actually over 40. But I remember thinking this changes everything. I built my first website when I was about 12 years old. I started the agency that I run today when I was 17, and it's only exploded since then. I mean, all of us would testify that the internet has had a massive impact on the world, some for a ton of good and some for not so good. And so we've had to balance that reaction over time. The second time where I thought this changes everything about everything was this.
This is a day I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years. Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything. Today, we're introducing 3 revolutionary products of this class. The first one is a widescreen iPod with touch controls. The second is a revolutionary mobile phone. And the third is a breakthrough internet communications device. 3 things: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
And they did, and it changed everything about everything. I think about this. My oldest son is about to turn 20, and he grew up with touch devices. I remember when he was little, walking around the house, he would come up to the TV and touch the screen and not understand why the TV wouldn't work because he had used a phone. I was one of those nerds who waited in line for the first iPhone, and it changed everything about everything, some for good, some for bad. I don't know about you, but I have been guilty of staring at this dumb thing instead of being present with the people that I say matter the most. I've been distracted at times that I shouldn't be. It's easy to get drawn in to conversations on the internet when we should be with conversations with people in person. And there's all kind of negatives that came with the iPhone and a lot of positives. Then the third time where I thought this changed everything about everything was this. Well, not really this. This is a DOS prompt. So if those of you are even older, you remember way back in the day, you had to like type in and tell the computer what to do. But it reminded me of that when this came out, ChatGPT, a little over 2 years ago now. Believe it or not, it's been that long. Time flies. This news story came out. I don't even remember how I first heard about it, but I like to kind of play with new technology and new tools, and heard about this new chat bot type thing called some kind of AI with a horrible name called ChatGPT that nobody really understood why it was called that. Some of us still aren't really sure. And I went in there and tried it out. And I don't remember even what I asked it the first time, but I remember seeing its response and thinking, holy smoke, this changes everything about everything. And it made me think of this AI 2023. I'm back with a plan. I don't know if anybody remembers this movie, but it feels a little bit like the robots are trying to take over. And some people have said some pretty scary things about this AI stuff. Elon Musk, who's deep in AI, I mean, I drive a car that is controlled by AI now, which he created. He said Mars will be great if AI doesn't kill us first. That was actually in 2018, he said that. Stephen Hawking said that AI could be the worst event in the history of our civilization. Elon Musk also says that the global race for AI will be the most likely cause of World War III. That's encouraging. Slovakia's election was covered in deep fakes in 2023. Ours probably was this time too. For those of you that are watching from the U.S., maybe some of y'all are outside of the U.S. I'd love to know that in the chat. Let us know if you are international. That'd be kind of fun. This was from 2023, but worldwide spending then was expected to reach 154 billion. It will be many multipliers more than that as we go. We've been using AI for a while, so what's changed? I mean, think about this for a second. GPS is AI. Netflix recommendations are AI. Bank fraud detection is AI. Your social media algorithm, arguably Google search, Siri, Alexa, predictive text, Google Translate, spam email checkers, all these things are some variant of AI. So what's the difference? Let's define our terms a little bit as we dig in. And I promise I'm going to get to practical tools, but I want to lay the groundwork for where we're going. So let's define AI. It's this. It is technology that can perform tasks that usually require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, and decision making. Netflix uses it to recommend shows. Amazon uses it to personalize product recommendations. Walmart uses it to optimize supply chains. Bank of America uses it to detect fraud. And GE Health uses it to develop new medical devices. There's three kinds of AIs. I mean, there's probably more than this, but just for general sake, here's how I want you to think about it. There's specific task AI. That's like a GPS, okay? So your GPS has a specific task. It is, you tell it where you want to go, it knows where you're at, and it looks at traffic and distance and tries to figure out what the fastest way to get you there is. And it's getting pretty good at that. Then there's generative AI. That's a lot of what we've been talking about. Or you may hear the term large language model. It just means basically it has a large predictive text engine. Believe it or not, the fundamentals behind how these large language models work is that they basically try and predict what the next best word is in a sentence, kind of like when you're typing on your phone a text and it kind of predicts what it thinks your next text is going to be. It's essentially a really advanced version of that, which is pretty wild. And then the third, which is where these companies' stated goals is heading towards what they call AGI, or artificial general intelligence. That is essentially a computer being able to think and reason like a human being. Now, I get a lot of kickback on this kind of stuff, and I hear people say stuff like, yeah, but it can't write as well as a human. That's just not true. If you know how to prompt it properly, it can write as well or better than any human being. And most really smart people including Sam Altman, who runs OpenAI, and Elon Musk, will tell you that they believe within the next couple of years, AI as a tool and as a generative process will be smarter, quicker, and more intelligent than all of human intelligence combined. It's a little alarming, but what are we going to do about it? There's a couple of big models that you should be aware of. Actually, I need to update this slide. Google's is not called Bard anymore. It's called Gemini. They changed the name. OpenAI's is the biggest, arguably. ChatGPT, they're the one that kicked this off. Microsoft's a big investor behind them, along with a lot of other people. Claude, some of you may not have heard of Claude. It's not as well known as ChatGPT, but I actually think it's a much better writer. Amazon is a big investment in that company, and Llama, which is Meta, or maybe better known as Facebook, is their model. So there's different models. All four of these generally are the same kind of idea of how they're built as far as the technology goes. They just kind of have their own libraries, their own iterations of them. So let's just break it down. What is there to fear, and what is there to cheer? Let's start with the fear side. I just prompted AI and I said, hey, create an image that it's the fear of AI. And this is what it made, which is a little alarming. Job loss is one. People used to deliver ice. They don't anymore. People used to deliver milk. They don't anymore. There will be jobs that do not exist any longer. Nathaniel Hall said Copilot by Microsoft. Copilot, I think, actually uses OpenAI. I could be wrong, but it's similar in its structure, and it's built into Office, but good example. Job loss. I think that the biggest loss of jobs will actually not be AI taking people's jobs as much as it will people who are using AI taking jobs of people who are not using AI. Because the people who are using AI are going to be much more effective. I had an agency owner, I was sitting around a fire pit a year or two ago at a retreat that I was at, and he said, we found out that one of the applicants for a copywriter job was using AI to write copy, and so we we decided not to hire them. And I said, well, I'll take their name, I'll hire them. And I was kind of half joking, but kind of not, but what I meant was I want people who are learning to use this technology. Other risks, deep fakes. This is not a picture of Donald Trump in a orange jumpsuit, but it kind of looks like it. Although he's only got 4 fingers, so there's that. Now, people make jokes about this, like, yeah, but AI can't make fingers. It couldn't when I created this image, but if I were to create a new one now, it absolutely could. These tools are getting better and better and better. Election manipulation, who knows what kind of effect it can have because it can control not just I think people think about this, they think about like the results of the election, but I think it's actually more likely to be used and is being used to manipulate the general public. And it's not a left thing or a right thing. I said to somebody before the election a couple weeks ago, not to get too political, but I was like, look, if you don't think that either side would be willing to cheat in some way to get power, you're crazy. It's the most power, the most money you could ever have. So would they use technology to do it, left or right? Yeah, they absolutely would. Nobody is above it at that level. And even if the main person's not doing it, they probably got people in their teams who are considering it. Security threats are a risk. And then from a ministry perspective, lack of spiritual discernment. I created this image this morning because I wanted to update the image that was on this page, and I just put lack of spiritual discernment. This is the image that it gave me, which is pretty cool. Looking image, looks pretty real. What are some things to cheer, though? What are some positives? Well, I don't want a relationship with a robot like this, I'll tell you that, but this is the image that it gave when I asked things to cheer about AI. But one is improved brainstorming and creativity. One of the things that we do at 1122 for planning series content is we will get together for about a full day, once a quarter or so. Most of the pastors will be there. For context, those of you that aren't familiar with 1122, we've got about, I think there's 14 campuses right now. An average Sunday we'll have around 20,000 people in seats. So there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of different screens, a lot of things moving, and I get to help lead a lot of the creative and digital teams. So we'll do these creative offsites, and we'll have most of the pastors in the room, a lot of the creatives in the room, a lot of the worship leaders in the room, and we'll spend the first half of the day just doing Bible study, which is awesome. And AI can be a really incredible tool for Bible study because it has the whole thing memorized, believe it or not, and you can ask it questions. Now you got to ask it like which you got to lose a little discernment, to my point earlier, in that any response it gives you may not be the right response, but it can be a way to help you brainstorm. We will have series lined up for the whole year, so our next year is already completely planned out. We've planned series through about the middle of next year, but we'll sit and we'll plan the series. So for example, next year we're doing I want to say it's like a 10 weeks on something like that on 1 Timothy. So the lead pastor will kind of have already had planned roughly what the breakdown of the weeks are going to look like, what kind of the big ideas are that he wants to focus on. And then we're just trying to help wrap, look and feel around it, stage lighting, what songs are going to be played, what kind of additional resources or discipleship materials we're going to produce. And I'll take all that pre-work ahead of time and I'll plug it into ChatGPT and I'll use it along the way to help me brainstorm. It's not replacing my brain by any stretch of the imagination. It's accelerating it. Okay. It's kind of like the difference between swimming in a pool with or without flippers on. I can swim perfectly fine without flippers on, but if I put flippers on, I'm going to beat somebody who doesn't have flippers on. It's just the reality of it. So it's an additional tool to help me brainstorm more and dig into ideas and think about things that I didn't think about. I'm going to give you some specific ideas of how to do that better with specific tools as we head towards the end of this slide deck as well. Advanced language access. I'm going to show you some specific examples of how we've used language tools to reach more people, because now all of a sudden things like translation, which used to be incredibly expensive and time consuming, can now be done almost instantaneously. In fact, starting this year, we started to translate all of our sermons into Spanish every week. And so the sermon happens on Sunday. By Monday, we've posted a fully Spanish translation, which I'll show you an example of shortly. All right, let's see. Extreme problem solving is another one. Most people believe that as AI advances, it's going to be able to help humans solve complex problems, possibly create medical discoveries, things that we couldn't previously do because we just didn't have the time, knowledge, or expertise. And now we're going to be able to accelerate all that. There's some risks to it for sure, but there's some great opportunities. Rapid application development. I'm going to show you some specific examples of things today that I've created. Some simple examples, but I'm working on some much more complex ones, but stuff that budget-wise we might not have been able to do previously. Now we can, and now really anybody could. All of a sudden, what would have cost, tens of thousands of dollars and takes weeks or months to get done can be done with $100 in a couple hours, or even less in some cases. And then one of the things that people don't think about a lot is this: it's disability support. This is actually a picture of my 17-year-old son at my agency, and he is pretty severely dyslexic, which he can thank me for because it's genetic. And but he's very creative. But he has a really difficult time, despite lots of tutoring and courses and all kind of stuff, with writing good emails and writing good copy. It's going to be a mess. It just is. But he's very creative. And the beauty of AI is he's able to use it as an extension. It's like he has a full-time editor with him all the time. So now all of a sudden he's closing deals and creating relationships with customers that he never would other be able to get because they wouldn't take him seriously. He literally just closed a really impressive client retainer all by himself to help with their social media marketing. And he built all of the sales messaging, all the text messages using AI. Now, it didn't just do it for him. He had to think about what do I want it to say and what kind of angle do I want it to be presented in and how long or brief do I want it to be. And then he's got to put that together and send it. So it's less about creating content and more about curating it. So it's a good way to think about it. So that's kind of like highbrow theory on AI of things that we should think about as far as risks and rewards. But let's get into some real tactical, real life examples. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a link to a website with a document that has links to all the tools that I'm currently using. And I'm updating that on a regular basis. So I've actually got some new tools that I'm going to go add in there later today as well. So keep a eye out for that. As I add new tools, I'll send out an update to that list, just letting you know what's new. So here's the first example. This is a regular sermon at the Church of 1122, Pastor Joby Martin. If I click on it, oops, hold on, I don't want to play that yet. Let's see if it'll let me. Here we go.
Amen and amen. How we doing, church? Good? You look great. Are you ready for the 9th and final week of Run Over by the Grace Train?
All right, you get the idea. So that's him in a regular sermon. And then here's the Spanish version. So what we do with this is literally upload it to a website. It automatically transcribes it, translates it, and voice clones it. So you'll hear him in Spanish.
Amén. ¿Cómo están, iglesia? ¿Se les ve muy bien?
¿Están listos para la novena y última semana del desafío de la gracia? ¿Cuántos de ustedes?
So you get the idea. Pretty awesome. He actually has a pretty Southern accent, if you can't tell from the first video. He's a good old Southern boy from Dillon, South Carolina. And originally, AI had a really hard time cloning his voice, but now it actually does a really good job. And we'll have Spanish-speaking staff members go back through and listen to it if there's any major problems. The cloning tool that I'm going to show you at the end will let you edit and tweak the language if it's not quite right. So, it's worth double checking, but we also just put a disclaimer on there. Hey, this is converted using AI. And it's amazing the stories that we've gotten from people who will share it with family and friends. In fact, the first time I sent this to Pastor Joby, he was somewhere in South America, Costa Rica or something like that. And he was with a guide who was a fluent Spanish speaker. And he played the sermon for him. And the guy had tears in his eyes. And he was like, it's so exciting that I'm going to get to listen to these in my own language. It's incredible. And where I think this is going to go, like right now we have to manually do this. So we upload it. But literally I have it. I did it myself for a little bit just to prove it as a case. And then I trained a intern basically to take care of this work. And they spend about an hour max every week getting this done. I think our total cost is about $50 a week now, but that number is going to come down and down and down over time. I think eventually what we'll see is YouTube will just have this built in natively. Eventually, you're just going to pull up any video and pick any language, and the reach and opportunity of that is unbelievable. Ryan in the chat said it's like Acts 2 all over again. Exactly. The opportunity here is unbelievable. And I'm a sales and marketing guy at heart. That's what I've always done historically. And I had somebody ask me one time when I first came on staff at 1122, they said, do you feel like, or do you think that Pastor Joby is using you to promote his books or the church or whatever else? And one, I thought it was kind of a crappy question, but I get it. And I appreciated their transparency. And I thought about it for a little bit and I said, no, I said, I'm using him to promote the gospel of Jesus Christ wherever it's possible. And so now, even though we have a ton of people that come sit down in person, I mean, at Christmas, we'll probably have 35,000 people across all campuses in seats, but the reach that we can have online is hundreds of thousands or millions, and it's anywhere in the world. And now with this type of technology, it's in any language. That is very exciting. Stuff that was totally unattainable prior to some of this AI technology. Another example, I was with Pastor Joby at a men's retreat a couple weekends ago in Southern California at North Coast Church out there. If anybody happens to be from there, y'all did a great job with that event. And I was sitting with dinner with him the night before. It was pretty late. It was like 10:30 the night before. He was going to preach the next morning. And I said, man, do we have any kind of like resource we could give these men after you're done preaching? Because men are pretty horrible at taking notes. At least I am. And he's like, no, but that's a good idea. And I said, let's put something together. And he's like, well, I'm not sure we have time for that. And I'll show you specifically how I did this in ChatGPT, but I literally took his notes, which if you saw his notes, no disrespect to him, I'd tell this to his face. It'd be very difficult for you to preach a sermon from his notes, but they work fine for him and he's the one preaching them, so it's fine. But I took his notes, which are very hard to interpret, honestly, and I just dumped them all into ChatGPT. And I said, hey, I'm trying to create a resource for men to kind of have a follow-up to this conference. And I want to give them a website with some overview, and then I want to give them a downloadable sermon notes. And then it, in moments, created that resource. And I turned it around and passed it over to him. And I said, read through this, tell me what you think. And he's like, holy smoke, this is unbelievable. And I'm like, yeah. Now, here's the thing. What it's not doing, and I don't encourage this or agree with this in any way. What it is not doing is writing his sermon for him. Could it? Yes. Should it? I don't think so. That's my opinion, because I do believe that sermons are inspired. I think that God works through the hearts of men to tell, to unpack the sermon, to unpack the scripture the way He'd have it to be done. And I think that the risk of having a robot write that and just deliver it is probably not great. But it is great for content multiplication. So what I mean by that is he produced a sermon. It's his words, his ideas, formed by reading the scriptures. And we produced this document. Oh, let me go back. Oh, it's not going to let me link to that. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to share this link with you because I want to show it to you. It's pretty neat. Okay, so I used a tool called Gamma, which I will share with you in that document that I sent, and it produced this website just from me uploading a outline of the talk, and it also produced these sermon notes, and all of it was done in less than 30 minutes. Historically, this would have taken, I don't know, a lot of time and probably multiple people to get it done. So incredible resource. Matter of fact, I'll just show you real quick because I have time. Let's just get a little nitty gritty here. Here's an actual deck. So if I jump in here, this is a tool called gamma.app. I could put a link to that in the chat, but it'll also be in the downloadable at the end. And you can paste in notes that you have. You can generate one-line prompts, or you can import a file. And so what I'll do is I'll go grab his notes from, I don't know, last weekend. See if I can find them real quick here. Working on the fly, so who knows what's going to happen. All right, I got them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up his notes in a Microsoft Word document. And then what I'm going to do is click paste in, and you'll see how this works. It's pretty cool. So I've got his notes from last week, maybe the week before, but either way. And I'm going to copy them out of Word, paste them into here. So it's just literally just pasting in all of his sermon notes in here. And I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to create a, let's do a presentation in this case. And I want to condense the content because I don't want this much info on a slide. Medium is fine. We'll let it create some AI images for us automatically. And let's just make it, say, 12 slides. Hit continue. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pick the style of slide that I want. So just think of it like a theme in PowerPoint or anything else. So I might just come through and be like, oh, I kind of like the looks of this one. Let's see what that looks like. Nah, I don't really like that. I'll just keep going. Maybe just something real plain like this. That's fine. I'll click generate. Now it's going to take that outline and it's going to take the deck design that I had, and it is going to build out a deck, including images, based on that sermon outline. Pretty wild, huh? What's even crazier is you'll see these boxes on the side where the images are. I've not given it images. I could give it images, but it's actually going to create images based on what it thinks it should do. Now, he doesn't really use slide decks for a sermon, so it's not something he would use in this particular case, but he might use it as a downloadable if I could create a document that's a resource for people. We're going to talk a lot about that next week in the webinar, so you don't want to miss that. November 20th, next Wednesday, same time, same place. We're going to do a webinar where I talk about how to actually use this in email generation, text generation. So now scroll back up, check this out. Grace is slow to anger. It automatically created some images that it thinks are related. And these are all not real. They're totally AI generated. Some of them are kind of weird. That's kind of a hot mess with all these hands in here. That hand actually looks fine. But then it's even crazier is I can come in here and I can click on one of these images, not to get too granular. And I could say stress management, hit enhance. It'll redo the prompt. And then I can hit generate, and it'll actually give me a few different images, and it automatically tries to match the image to the theme that I've selected. Maybe. There we go. So I got a couple folks on here that I could pick through. Pretty awesome. But I can pick this style. I can define the style. Now, imagine how easy it is to put together a deck like this. It's so easy. In fact, I didn't use it for the presentation today because I already had one put together, although I did play with a few, which you can see in here. I had another talk that I was doing the other day for a group I lead called Agency Builders, and did a whole leadership and alignment talk. And this whole deck was built off my notes and my slides. Uploaded some real photos just to make it more personalized. I don't want all AI stuff in there, but pretty cool how quickly I can do that. And then if I wanted to, I can just give it instructions for the deck. I don't want to mess that one up because it's a real one, but let me find a different one. Let's do the one we were just on. So I could be in here and I could say AI, I can ask AI to do something to the particular slides. So I can ask to improve writing, fix spelling and grammar, or translate it. So I could hit translate and then say, hey, I'd like to actually have this be a resource is in all kind of different. I mean, I don't even know what language we're talking about here. And we got all kind of stuff. Espanol, that's one I know. Translate. Now it's going to take the whole deck. I've actually not even tried this before, so we're seeing it all for the first time together. That's how I like to roll. For those of you that know me, there's a couple of you in the chat who I recognize your names. So, I like to move fast and break things, not people, just things. So now I got the whole deck in Spanish, which is insane. The complexity of this couldn't be done a couple of years ago. And the opportunity to now use it for good is incredible. And so what happens is people get all caught up in all this stuff that's like the semantics of the theology of it all. And I'm like, I get it. Like, I don't want people writing sermons and delivering them like they're their own. But frankly, I've seen people steal sermons from other people and read them verbatim. That's not that much better, respectfully. Now, borrowing some ideas and structures and illustrations, no problem. Stealing everything word for word, literally, I've seen that before, not good. So that's not a whole lot different than using AI. AI is like having a ghostwriter, honestly. But using AI to help refine your ideas, incredible opportunity. Using it to translate into other languages, incredible opportunity. Using it to reach people in places. I mean, think about those of you that are on this call who spend a lot of time. I see some of you on here who I know spend a lot of time in missions work. And you spend time with unreached people groups all over the world. And one of the biggest challenges historically has been getting the Bible translated into whatever their native language is. Now, what's so crazy about AI, y'all, is I'm not trying to get too far into the weeds today, although I love this stuff, it's so fun, is you could literally take a copy of somebody's language that the AI tool did not know. You could give it the language, tell it what it says. It could learn the language and then translate anything else that you want based on that language. That's the kind of intelligent access that regular folks like me and you have, which is incredible. Now, I don't know how far ahead the rest of the government and super high-end companies are, but they're usually years ahead from what we actually have access to. And we're out here doing this stuff with free tools. Now, I think I pay a little bit for that Gamma app that I just showed you, but people will often say stuff to me like, yeah, but is it a paid app? And I'm like, how much is your time worth? Because I can tell you right now that I've built multiple decks for this particular with this particular tool that have saved me more time than I could possibly imagine and allowed me to do things I couldn't otherwise do. There's no way that I could have spun this little website up for Pastor Joby in the time that I did. Actually, I'll tell you a funny behind the scenes story of what happened with this. So we had talked about it. We never like actually finished it. And, I like to fly by the seat of my pants. So we're talking about it. We hadn't actually finished it. And I was supposed to talk to him about it between a break, between two sermons and kind of finalize it. And we just both got tied up talking to other people and never did. And I didn't have the website done. I had the outline kind of half done. And he walks on stage for the final closing session of this event. And he's like, hey, if anybody wants to access this, we put together a resource for you. Just text MIN to 441122. And I'm sitting in the back of the room going, uh-oh, that doesn't work right now. And I literally got up out of the back row. I was standing in the back, actually, walked back over to the green room, pulled my laptop out, built this and the outline, connected it all, set up the text thread, launched it before he was done talking. Now, he talks a long time, which is great. So that's really helpful. And he's very good at it. But, y'all, that's crazy. I would have been in so much trouble historically. There's no way I'm going to probably actually been in trouble, but I would have been a mess. I couldn't have actually done it. And now, all of a sudden, I'm able to get this done. Yeah, Sonia just put in there the cost is $96 for Gamma app, and I'm not connected to them anyway. I'm not making any money if you go set up an account. I'm just here trying to help. I get a lot of people asking me questions about this stuff, and I thought, well, let me put together some slides to help. Last webinar that we did a couple of weeks ago, if you missed it, I talked a lot about marketing and communication strategy for churches as a whole. So if you missed that, we can probably get you a copy of it. Just let us know, or Logan can give you a link to it. And yeah, so this stuff's awesome. All right, let me get back into my deck. That's like what you call a really serious rabbit trail, but I still have time, so I'm okay. All right, so we talked about that. Content multiplication. Another content multiplication tool. I love this tool. It's so cool. It's called Opus Clip. There's a lot of tools out here that do this. There's a couple of church-specific ones that I really like. I could do a whole nother day on clips, but I don't have time today. But I'll show you a couple of things that I find really helpful. I'm going to pull up some examples that I think you will be like, oh, I knew about that, or you'll be like, wow, that's incredible. I thought I was logged into it. I'm not. So give me 1 second. Basically what this app does is it allows you to input a YouTube link or upload a video file, and it will automatically go through that file and find the best clips that are made for social media. One of the things people get caught up on is creating new content, and especially, I'm fully aware that I am totally spoiled at 1122 and at my agency because I have a big team of people in both places who can do all kind of stuff, which is awesome. Most folks, though, most of y'all watching probably don't have that. You don't have huge teams. Maybe you got one person working in comm, trying to do all the things and be all the hats. I get it. But here's where these tools can help. So let's check this out real quick. I'm going to share my screen to this slide. And a couple weeks ago, Pastor Joby, it's been a few months now, actually, did a interview for his new book that was just released called Run Over by the Grace Train. And he had a bunch of people come in and talk about how their lives were transformed by grace. Tim Tebow was there, Brock Purdy was there, Charles Martin was there, a bunch of folks. And this is like a 2-hour YouTube video. Well, it can be hard to go through a video, number one, and just find the clips that are valuable. But check this out. It automatically...
I cannot believe that he would save me because I know me. Like, the worst sinner I know is me, because I only see the external sins of everybody else. I know very intimately all of my sins in thoughts and actions, and that he would send his son Jesus on my behalf to die for me, not just for all the world, not just for all mankind. I cannot believe that he would
Amen.
Save me, because I...
Praise God. How awesome is that? Like, what a great clip that it pulled right out of there. 22 seconds, perfect for putting on all the platforms. But check this out. I can edit this clip. I said I wasn't going to get into the weeds, and here we are, but I can't help myself. You can edit this clip, and some of you are like, I'm not a video editor. I don't know how to edit videos. No problem. You do know how to edit text. So literally you can come in here, and I could say, well, I don't really like where it ended. I want to see what was after that. I can click add a section, and it will show me the whole video, and I can just extend the clip to something farther if I want and click add, and it'll go out, clean that up, process it, translate it, transcribe it, pull it in here. I also could delete a section. So let's say I had a sentence where I didn't want, there's nothing that I don't want, but if I didn't for some reason, I can actually highlight a section and I can delete a particular piece. So I can remove the caption and the video, and it'll actually edit it out of the video, which is pretty amazing. It even has some other AI enhanced tools built in here. You can do speech enhancement. Let's say the audio setup wasn't that great. What's so amazing now is you can have incredible audio because of AI speech enhancement in environments where you don't have fancy microphones like Logan and I have, or like Pastor Joby has. You can record on your phone and it can still sound awesome. The opportunity of what this creates to reach more people is exponential. And then now watch this. Again, I know some of y'all are like, well, we're really in the weeds now, but this is where we ended up. So now I can actually publish this from here. So if I'm flying solo as a, comm person in a church, and I don't have any other team members, I'm using a tool like this. I'm clicking publish on social. These are my channels that are plugged in, but if I had the church's channels plugged in, it could just publish to YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, X, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. You just add the accounts in here. You can see the ones that it can connect to. It automatically writes a headline, automatically writes a caption that it'll think will be helpful. It modifies them for each platform, which you can adjust if you want to. You can click publish now, or I can click select a time. Let's say this date, pick a time, and I can publish it for a particular time, all in one place. Unbelievable, y'all. And I forget what I pay for this platform, but whatever it is well worth the time that is involved with it. So I have a link to this. I think I even has a discount code in the tools that I'm giving you at the end. You can even come up here and you can type stuff like find the funniest moments or find comments by a particular person in the thread. And it ranks these based on how popular it thinks it'll be for social media. So it's helping you find the best viral clips. And look, it's not about like being viral on Instagram or trying to get more likes and attention. It's about trying to reach more people for the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's what it's about. We always say that we're a movement for all people to discover and deepen a relationship with Jesus Christ. And the beauty of tools like this is it allows us to do that at a level that we could not do before. So really cool stuff here for content multiplication. Don't sleep on that stuff. Let's keep
I
going.
love this one. I'm just going to chime in. I know I've been
Go for
quiet
it.
the whole time, Jay, but you think about pastors every single week are speaking and they're delivering 20, 30, 40. Let us know in the chat, how long does your pastor go on Sunday? And how does that vibe with your church? But they're delivering a message every single week, and is just ripe for capturing video moments with a tool like this. It's so hard with church staff, you know, finding the resources and the budget to do all these sorts of things. And instead of creating new content, you can say, hey, out of this 30 to 55-minute sermon, whatever it is, we can have 5, 6, maybe a dozen pieces of content that aren't just announcement. In the last webinar a couple of weeks ago, Jay shared, you guys, that a lot of us use social media just for announcements and events, but it really should be for storytelling and relationships, pulling these moments out that your pastor is talking about, and they're up on stage, up at the pulpit every single week, can be so powerful. And in leveraging video at such a low cost. I just want to call that out because I think it's a huge opportunity for a lot of churches, whether you're large or small. We've got folks kind of running the gamut based on our church staff poll here. So, all right, I'll turn it back over to you.
Love it. It's so true. And in business world, one of the things that's complicated is creating the content. One of the beauties of being in the church is we naturally have a lot of content because we have a sermon every week. Now, some of you may not be videoing those. You should start. Even if you're sticking an iPhone on a tripod, great. That's a good place to start. It doesn't have to have super high-end thing. Just get started. Do something. There's a lot of questions popping up in the chat, and I got a few more things I want to run through that I think will be helpful. If I run out of time, because I know we got about 14 minutes left on this particular book call, I'll actually stay a few extra minutes to answer questions if I can today. But then we'll also be back next week, next Wednesday on the 20th. So I don't want you to miss that. Logan will put a link to that in the chat. And I also went ahead and put a link. I cheated. I jumped ahead because I've got a slide at the end where I linked to some software for those of you that want to talk about what different software we can get to. All right, a couple more things I want to highlight. This could have been a 2-hour webinar because I love this stuff so much. Years ago, we were sitting in a creative offsite trying to come up with a way to help people figure out which campus, which times we were at. And during a lunch break, I built this tool, which I'm going to switch and show you the actual functioning tool. And basically, you just pick your campus, and then it automatically updated the times based on whichever campus. So this campus only has 2 times, where this one has a couple more. And then you put the name of the person that you want to invite, and you put their phone number in there. And then you hit generate text link. And then it actually opens, which I can't show you on my screen, but actually opens and creates a text message to that person. Now, I do have a little bit of development chops. So I've done some of this stuff in my life, but I wrote 0 code to create this. I wrote 0 code. It was created just by telling ChatGPT what I wanted it to do. It created the file, and then I uploaded it to a server. Now, some of you are like, I don't even know how to upload it to a server. There's some other tools out there that are coming out now. You don't even need to know how to do that. You can just tell it what you want, and it will build an application. The opportunity that's going to create in the marketplace, both for-profit and nonprofit, is unbelievable because we're going to be able to create things that we never could have done before, just because AI can do it instead of having to spend tens of thousands of dollars on things otherwise. Admin work. Here's another great example. I was in ChatGPT yesterday, and there was a spreadsheet of a bunch of new jobs that we were trying to hire for. And it wasn't in Excel though, and I wanted to have it in Excel. So all I did was I uploaded the PDF, and I said, turn this into a spreadsheet. And then it, boom, turned it into a spreadsheet, which is incredible, that I could download. And then I said, chart the data over time by number of positions based on start date. And it charted when the estimated start dates were. That's how simple it was. One of the things people ask me all the time is, do I have the paid version of ChatGPT? And the answer is yes. You should get the paid version. It's the best $20 a month you could possibly spend to have a few less coffees. Okay, like $20 a month is a couple of stops at Starbucks. And look, us church people, we love to stop and get coffee. Okay, and that's great. But if you take that $20 a month and you invest in a software like this, if you don't have it anywhere else in your budget, I'm telling you right now, it will change your world. Let me show you a couple other things here. It gets a little nerdy in here, but they've got this thing called Canvas. Okay. And what Canvas does, I'm going to start a new one, so I have a fresh start here. What Canvas does is it lets me take something like these notes, these sermon notes that I had. So I'm just going to paste in these sermon notes. These are Pastor Joby's actual sermon notes. I didn't ask him if I could share these, but he'll be fine. I'll just submit it. So it tells me what it is. And now it's going to put it together in a more readable format. Now watch this. Turn this into a study guide that a small group could use to follow up with after the sermon, and create in a canvas. I'll show you what a canvas is in a second because it'll create it for me. Now look at this. Main theme, opening prayer, icebreaker questions, focus scriptures. It's not making this up. It's just reformatting his sermon notes into something that is helpful. Questions. Have you ever experienced how anger impacts your health, relationship, and spiritual growth? How does anger show up in your life? Here's some examples. In James 1:19 through 21, James starts with calling his audience beloved. Why is it important to understand our identity as loved by God before we act on anything else? I'm telling you right now, I've seen a lot worse disciples group and small group questions written by human beings. Now I can come through and I can tweak some of these. So I could be like, I was going to say make these more a practical application, but they already are practical application. I could actually click on this and say, give me 2 more examples. And instead of rewriting the whole thing, it looks like it's written the whole thing. It's actually just tweaking the end. It will just tweak that particular piece. And then this is pretty cool over here. I'll show you a couple more things, and then I'll wrap it up and leave some questions. You can click this button here, and you can increase the length. So I'm like, let's make it a little shorter. Boom. It'll take the whole thing, try and keep the guts of it together, the core message, but it'll just tighten it up and write a shorter version. And if I want to make it fun, I could be like, why don't you add some emojis? Let's dress this thing up a little bit. Let's make it a little bit more fun for folks. Some people would not like this. They would think it's childish. No problem. Don't give it to those people. A lot of angry faces. To be fair, the message was on anger, so that's right. And then I can hit add polish when I'm done, and it will kind of reformat the whole thing and dress it up really nicely. You ever had a document that's just kind of a mess, but you need to like just clean it up? You can just drop it in here, say polish format. It'll keep your content style the way that it is. I can hit copy up here and drop it into anything, any other document that I want. I can also upload PDFs. I can upload spreadsheets. I can ask it to manipulate spreadsheets. I can ask it to compare information from different things. So those are a lot of different ways that I'll use ChatGPT. Last thing that I'll leave you with is this framework of how to think about working with ChatGPT or Claude or any of these other conversational AIs. You want to think of it like this. Some of y'all probably remember that show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And Regis Philbin was the host, and people would have these questions, and they'd have a phone a friend, right? They get to call their buddy Susan, who was the best at history, and they would ask her a question so that she could help them win the game. Think of ChatGPT like that. It's your phone a friend. It's not Google, where you're asking a question to get a big list of search results. It's conversational. So you want to chat with it. You want to ask it questions. One of the hacks that I'll tell you is if you ask it, hey, what's something else you need to know to help me produce a better document? So let's say I was creating that small group guide. I could just say, hey, what else do you need to know from me to make this small group guide as good as possible, or at the highest quality possible, or the best possible outcome, whatever it may be. And it'll give you some answers to those questions. It'll give you questions that you can then answer so that it produces a better result. And that's a different way of thinking about it than how most people think. And then lastly, refine and explore. One of the things that will set people apart as they use these tools is curiosity. Being curious enough to just say, well, I wonder if it can do X, Y, or Z. Give it a try. You got to get it in your thought process. Put it in your dock on your computer at the bottom. You can download the Mac app for ChatGPT if you have a Mac. I think they have a Windows version now too. You can download the app on your phone, put it on your home screen. Get used to going there and asking it questions instead of Google. Now, I'll give you a caution. Occasionally, it will hallucinate, literally produce stuff that's not true at all, but it's getting much better at that. And ChatGPT now cites its sources, which is really helpful. So it's good to pay attention to. All right. I have 5 minutes left. Should we cheer it? Should we fear it? Look, I'm obviously excited about it because I see the potential of what's possible. We're not going to stop it. And so by not using it, you're not like boycotting in some way that's going to somehow prevent the spread of AI. You can believe that you are, but you're not. So I just simply ask the question, how can I use this for good? That's what I want to know. How can I use it for good? And I'm going to do the most that I can to make that happen. Here is a website you can go to download the tools that I was talking about. If you sign up here as well, you'll kind of be on my email list as I start to think about AI more, which is a lot lately. I'm gonna start putting together an email occasionally that I'll send out, probably monthly. I'm not gonna be bombing you every day or anything with emails, just with insights and things that I think are helpful. And honestly, this particular piece of the puzzle, I was telling Logan earlier, there's no call to action for us at business builders or ministry builders. I'm not trying to sell you anything today. If we're doing a marketing class and you wanted help with communication and strategy, we do what we call a ministry blueprint, and we help you get that stuff right. We talked a lot about that last week. We'll talk a little bit about it more next week. But this AI stuff, it's not a monetized thing for me. It's just about going, how can I help a lot of people at once instead of having 50 different phone calls saying the exact same things. And this stuff is changing really fast too. So the other thing I would encourage you with is, and I'll leave a few minutes for questions here. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Logan, you kind of help me curate some of these questions, and I'll try and answer some. Great. The other thing I would say is if you try something and it doesn't work, number one, try something different. Like ask it how you could get to what you're trying to do. And if it still doesn't get to where you want, give it a little time. This world is accelerating at a rate faster than any technology I've ever seen, and so we're seeing stuff that used to be really garbage is now great. Images are indistinguishable. Copy is actually great now when prompted properly. So those are some things to think about. Logan, we got a few questions from the audience. What do we got?
Yeah, so Emily was just asking a good question. She was saying in the small group discussion guide example that you were just talking through in taking that into ChatGPT, using Canvas to write that. If you were wanting to add some polish to that, maybe bring that over into a tool like Canva or something to add some design elements to it, what would be your next step in that process? I think the Gamma app might be kind of the next step there, but
It is.
tell me how you'd think about it.
That is what I would do. So let's just do it real quick. Sometimes seeing's better than I might take this outline that I put together here, and I'd come over to Gamma and I'd hit create new, and I would go paste in my content. I realize I'm moving fast, but this is recorded. You can go back and watch it in slow motion if you need to. And I go, hey, do I want to create a presentation, a website, or a document? Probably a document in this case. I'm going to hit continue. And I actually want it to keep my content. So I'm going to hit preserve, which means it's not going to create or try and reduce. I just want it to use my content. I'll let it create, automatically choose whether it wants AI image or stock images. I can always replace those, and I probably would, especially if I was producing something for somewhere, like 1122. We have a lot of great photos. I would rather use our own real photos. And then let's see, format, document. I'm gonna do like a letter size, so you can kind of adjust these settings on what you'd prefer. Hit continue. I'll probably do a light color theme just so it's real easy to follow. Also, you can customize these themes, so you can create a custom one. Like I would probably create a custom one that matches the church's brand and font and styles and all that kind of stuff. And then I click generate, same thing as before. And it should, we'll see because we're doing it in real time, take the content that I had created in ChatGPT and just build it into a nicer looking document. We'll see what happens. I've used the presentation version of this a lot more than I've used the document creator, but this will be fun. Cool. Yeah, so you can see it's created a multi-page document over here. And maybe it's too many pages, so I could literally come up here. I'm going to let it finish writing content because I don't really want it to be 8 pages probably.
Awesome. Emily, I was wondering if we were answering your question because I was confused first if we were talking about Canvas within ChatGPT or Canva. Lots of folks are used to using Canva for design. I think this combination could kind of replace that or supplement it a good bit. I love this combination, especially for me, who's someone who knows enough about design to be dangerous, but usually to take way too long. Tweaking things that I don't need to be spending time doing.
And Canva's really great too. Like Canva's just such an awesome design tool. A lot of designers snub their nose at some of this kind of stuff over time, but they should get over it. Just like programmers should get over feeling threatened. They should learn to use it better. A great designer using Canva will produce a better outcome than an average person. But an average person using Canva will produce a better design than they ever could have otherwise. And that's what we're shooting for.
Yeah.
It's democratizing this stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. There was another question from a little bit back. I think this was, um, oh, let me find it real quick. Oh, I lost it. It was in the chat instead of the Q&A. Oh, here we go. Thank you, Mark. Mark asked, what tool could I use to create a workbook from a pastor's published book? I mean, I think similar to this one, you could start with taking the text of the book, pasting that into ChatGPT, having it format it for workbook style, and then bring it into Gamma if you want to add some design elements to it. Similar workflow for a different application, right, Jay?
That's exactly what I would do. Those two tools together are really a powerhouse for creating content like this. And really, it's about what we said, which is multiplying content. That's a great example, how to create a workbook from something that already exists. In fact, I did this as a test. We didn't use it. We actually used a workbook written by the publisher. But as an example, in the last book that Pastor Joby wrote, people were trying to figure out how we were going to produce some of this content. I literally uploaded his entire book into Claude, actually, but ChatGPT would do the same thing. And I asked it based on the book to build me a workbook, and it's incredible what it can do. You can also build out, this is probably like a master class, I can do a whole separate thing sometime, but you can create projects in Claude or custom chat GPTs that allow you to store information. So I could store like the church's style guide or a copy of Pastor Joby's book or some past sermons. And then based off of that style, I could create other content so it aligns with it. It doesn't just feel like random copy being created.
Yeah.
So
That's really one of the unlocks I want to call out for folks. If you've ever chatted with ChatGPT or you've used Claude or one of these tools to generate content, you're like, it feels kind of bland, it feels kind of vanilla. And if I need to prompt it every time to, do this, not that, here are kind of the tone of voice you should use. If you're using ChatGPT, again, best $20 a month you can spend, and we get no affiliate commission off this, right? Guys, using a custom GPT or a project in Claude allows you to kind of create the short-term memory that the AI needs to kind of go back to. Always use these as reference points. So that's kind of leveling up from just chatting with ChatGPT and needing to put everything into the prompt. You can kind of load up its memory with those things that it needs for context.
that's right. Well,
One
we're basically out of time today, but I'll answer a couple more questions. But for those of you that need to run, because I know your schedules are probably tight, don't miss next week. There's a link in the chat to get to next week's webinar. We're going to talk about email campaigns, texting campaigns, how to integrate all this stuff and tie it all together. So if you're into that, I get a lot of people asking me questions of this. I'm trying to batch this work a little bit to help as many people at once. We've had hundreds of people sign up for these, which is awesome. So thanks for being here in person. And if you're watching the recording, thanks for watching the recording as well. So those of you that gotta leave, we'll see you soon. Logan, maybe we got time for one or two more questions for the folks that want to stay around.
We've got one more question I want to hit you with, Jay. I have some thoughts on this one too, but next week, as we talk about kind of repurposing this content into downloadable, PDFs, guides, workbooks, we're going to be talking about how then do you use those assets to be able to exchange those for contact information with visitors, members, and those sorts of things so that you can grow your list and communicate with them more frequently. So that's right in the bottom of the chat in that bit.ly link. All right, Jay, one more question on video. What are your thoughts on AI tools that can turn a Zoom meeting recording into watchable videos with title pages, transition, text, name tags, those sorts of things? We talked about kind of short form video. I don't know of anything that can kind of replace the video editor for a longer form, 10+ minute video.
Yeah.
I know some tools where it's kind of AI assisted that I can mention, but I'll let you chime in first.
Yeah, the new version of Opus Clip that I mentioned on the call will actually do a lot of that. It's not going to be a true like podcast editor, like it's not going to be that advanced. Although there are some, for those of you that are in video world, there are some plugins for both Final Cut and for Adobe Premiere, which is getting a little bit like more complicated. But it will do some auto editing. I forget even what they're called. I have to find them and I'll put them on my tools list if you sign up with aiwithjay.com. But that Opus Clip will let you create longer clips. So like 3 to 5 minute short clips. And there's a space for that. On YouTube, one of the things that we're working on is building out a YouTube channel for Pastor Joby, which is kind of dormant, quiet right now compared to where it's going to go and compared to the church's channel. But my thought on that channel is basically to pull put sermons in, not 30 to 60-second clips, but like 3 to 5 minute clips, and have it answer specific questions. So, let the YouTube video be a specific question that he's answering. So maybe somebody's like, I don't understand baptism. And we could take a sermon and have it automatically edit down 3 to 5 minutes about what is baptism. That's very possible. So Opus Clip will already do that.
Yeah, I love that approach. I've used some other tools like Descript. If you go to descript.com, it's more of kind of AI assisted for folks who aren't, super proficient or professional video editors, where you can say, hey, I want this sort of B-roll of, someone walking into a church, and it'll find that for you and be able to drop it in. But I really like that application with Opus Clip. And back to what we've been talking about in this Ministry Builders webinar series is to use the digital tools at our fingertips to reach more people, enhance our outreach, and fulfill the ministry of your church or your organization. Because we think about that application that Jay just shared, answering that specific question and being able to put that 3 to 5 minute video on YouTube, and AI is helping you get it there sooner. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. And so being able to surface up those answers and that content to folks that might otherwise not be able to find it online. Really powerful stuff. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. If you've watched this live or watched this on demand, hope it's valuable for you. Really looking forward to next week. We're going to be talking about how to take these content assets that you're accelerating the creation of with AI to grow your contact list, engage your audience, whether that's new members, visitors, or your existing congregation. So join us next week. We really look forward to it. Thank you for all the engagement. Great questions, everybody. Such good conversation and questions and engagement in the polls. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. Until then, have a great rest of your week. See ya.
Everybody.